In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Chapter 24. And Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. So all these discussions so far with the Sadducees and the Pharisees transpired in their own fortress. Fortress means in their own temple premises. So there in itself Jesus had the audacity to reprimand the the priest for what they are. And then Jesus went out and departed from the temple. And his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. The temples in the city of Jerusalem. And Jesus said unto them, see you not all these things? There is no point in you seeing all these things and you trying to show me. Indicating, verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. So verily I tell you, they are trying to show him the grandeur of the building, of the temple. And Jesus says, there shall not be left one stone upon another. That means the entire structure will be demolished. And thou shalt not, and that shall not be thrown down. That the whole temple will be pulled down. And this happened 60 years later. It was so done. It was so done by the Romans. They destroyed and sacked. They destroyed the temple and sacked the city of Jerusalem. And as he sat down upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? That you are talking of these things, when shall it be? What shall be the sign of thy coming? What is the sign by which we know that you will be coming? You will be coming again. And of the end of the world. And of the end of the world. So they wanted 3 signs to know when this destruction is going to take place. Secondly, any sign of thy coming and of the end of the world. And they say end of the world, but that when it will happen. And Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. See to it that people do not deceive you. Try to have a better understanding. When you have a good understanding, you will not be deceived by the talks and the teachings, the sayings and the remarks of others. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive you. Of course, many people will come after I have gone. Come in my name. So they will all say, oh, the Christ has come again, the Christ has come again. Even now it is so indeed. There are many people not realizing that there is no need, that there is basically no need for the second coming, for the physical coming of the next Messiah for the time being, because the Messiah had already given the teachings, and the teachings which he has given, that was the express purpose of his coming, to give the teachings. And he has come and given the teachings, right? But nevertheless, because the humans are so fragile, so weak with their limitations, that they think once again there will be a Messiah who will come to save them. The Messiah will only save them with his teachings. Not that he will bodily lift them up and take them into the heavens. That is not the case. That's my belief. That's not what it is. Right? So he has come here to give you a teaching which will save you. He has given that. But nevertheless, many others, as it is been seen subsequently, even in the 20th century, we find many who are claiming to be the Messiah, the Avatar. So what to speak of it? So in between, many have so claimed, and they all have their own admirers, etc. Saying, I am Christ and shall deceive you, and shall deceive you. So you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet come. But the end is not yet come. Yes, you will have rumors of wars, hear of wars and rumors of wars. They have been always taking place. So what? Right? But that does not mean that the end of the world is going to take place. There were wars before, wars then, and wars will be there later on. So long as humans are humans and they behave like kids with a big ego, there will be always wars in the world. Warring with their own egos. So don't worry about all that. See that you be not troubled by all these. And many people claim when things are a little bad in the world, that the end of the world is coming. When the end of the world comes, let us see. Let us see at that time. At least if the end of the world is coming, you won't be there to experience it. So why are you unnecessarily troubled by that? They imagine that when the end of the world comes, that they will survive. Where will they survive? Because the end of the world has come. Where are they to survive? So let us not get panicky about it, about all these things. Before all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. The end is not yet. For nation shall rise, then he says, for nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. So that is a natural thing. It's a worldwide phenomenon. Human history has been a history of wars. Nations after nations, kingdoms after kingdoms, all with their ego, all with their fear and sense of shall we say, expansion of their empires. So this has always been going on in the human world all through the dawn of human history. So, and there shall be famines. Of course there shall be famines in the world. There were famines before. Right? Even the Grand Depression took place in the 1930s in certain parts of the world. It happens all the time. Many parts of the world. Then the country rebounds back. And pestilences. Of course there are pestilences. In Europe the Great Plague came in. Now and then it kept on. Pestilences and earthquakes too. In different parts of the world you get these earthquakes all the time happening in diverse places. So in different places at different times all these things happen. But that does not mean that the end of the world has come or is coming. All these are the beginning of sorrows. So, all these things which happen in the world are the beginnings of sorrows. So, in the Green Bible says, are the beginnings of birth pangs. Birth pangs means, that's something good is going to happen. After, when all these things happen, are the beginnings of sorrows. So there has to. So there will be sorrows, the beginning of sorrow, the birth pain, birth pangs. When a woman is going to give birth to a baby, birth pangs are there. But then she is happy after that. So these are signs, all these troubles come, and often it so happens that these hardships and sorrows in the world come so that the man can open his heart out to God. And when he opens out his heart out to God, right, then in their hearts itself, they will be beckoning, looking up to God for the second coming of Christ. They'll be opening themselves out. That is the big birth pangs. So therefore, it can take, of course, for a woman to have a birth pang, it may take a few hours, at the most a few days. But as far as individual humans are concerned, they're a little more stubborn, more like the mule, and it will take a little more longer time, maybe a few years, a few decades. It may take place, all this. So don't worry about all this. Then they shall deliver you up to be afflicted and shall kill you. So these people, when all these wars and rumors, all these come, then they shall deliver you up to be afflicted, up to be troubled, tortured, afflicted, and shall kill you. Then they will kill you also. And you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. So this is not something which is going to take place not too far long, because the early Christians were so persecuted. Soon after the ascension of Jesus, passing away of Jesus, people will deliver you to be afflicted, to be tortured, and they will kill you also in different parts. They were killed in in Israel, various other cities of the Roman Empire, and you shall be hated of all nations, and you will be hated because they will be afraid of you. They will be afraid of your wonderful teachings and your strength with which you are now moving towards God. For all in my name, for my name's sake, because you are following my teachings and living my teachings. So more hardships may be inflicted upon you. And then many be offended. Many of these people shall be offended and shall betray one another. So they will betray one another itself for their own safety. And shall hate one another, and thereby they will also begin to hate one another, because one belongs to the way, which was the way, or the way of life lived by the early Christians who were following the teachings of Jesus. They were called as the ones who followed the way, because there was no Christianity at that time. So they were called as the one who lived and followed the way, the teachings of Jesus. And many others would be following the other teachings, and therefore as a result of it, the Jews will be following their Jewish tradition. So there would be animosity all through and through, and one in the same family itself, in the same village itself, in the same township itself, you will find some subscribing to the teachings of Jesus and following the way, and the others will be following the Jewish traditions and the other traditions which are in other parts of the Roman Empire. So they shall hate one another. This is a very ongoing process. That which was done then is being still done today in the 20th and 21st century. It's going on. They mutually hate each other if you belong to another group. So it's not. And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive one another. And in due time, many false prophets shall take advantage of the turmoil which is going on in the human race, and those with certain powers and capacities, prophets with certain abilities to prophesy, and some of them, and false teachers too, with some peculiar types of teachings, may have their own flock, create a flock somewhere. So he says, many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many, because the original source For God's teaching is the scriptures. The scriptures. Whatever be the scripture. The scripture gives uniformly the same message and the same teaching. The only difference is that it may be phrased and worded differently according to the context of the culture of the people. Some terms and terminologies may differ, that's about it. But the good teaching is, and the content of the essence of the good teaching is one and the same. Is one and the same. The wording is a little different, expressions may be a little different. But no new teaching or a new way can come out which is correct in the human world if which goes against the tenets of the scriptures. Of the scriptural teaching. So the scriptural teaching is the authority, is the basic authority on which all teachings are founded. And these teachings are given by God via the prophets or by the messiahs, by the avatars. But any other teaching which people invent, they invent teachings also, because they are having some psychological delusion. Somebody has a delusion that he is the creator. Another person has a delusion that he is an avatar. He is an avatar from some part of the... So they all have delusions. They are having some, but they have some capacities and powers. As a result of it, people are mesmerized. Even tomorrow, if a magician were to walk down the road, all the children will be his immediate followers and admirers. Show us so, show us more. And then he would proclaim and say, the magician, if you have faith in me, if you have faith in what I say, I shall lead you. And he will show some magical tricks and the children get hooked onto it. So this is a common phenomenon which we find. They may have holy ash dripping from somewhere or water being drunk some souls. So in all these conditions, so this is what happens in the world. So these people come and deceive you. It's a bag full of tricks. And because iniquity shall abound, iniquity means wickedness. Wickedness abounds all over the world. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. The love of many for God shall wax cold, shall become cold. That love for God, because of all these turmoils and false prophets and etc., many people's love for God may decrease here and there for wanted faith, for lack of faith in God. But he says, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. So whoever that person, he who shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. So unto the end of salvation, one should be firm in one's faith and love towards God and proceed on with the way of the good teachings, and that same person shall be saved. Such a person shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all 14, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. And this gospel of the kingdom, what is this gospel of the kingdom? The gospel relating to the knowledge and the understanding of the kingdom which is within, and since it is the kingdom within each one of us, and that good gospel, the good news, which has to be taken to heart by each and every one, and affirmed in his life, is the news. Gospel means good news, and the good news is that God is, and God is, not only God is, God is present within me, and therefore and thereby I am that. I am that divine, which I seeketh and search with all my heart. This is the gospel, the good news. And hold firm on to it. Hold firm with faith. With faith. So he shall endure all trials and tribulations, holding on to this faith of I am, and I am that indeed. Then such a person shall be saved. He shall truly be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world. All over the world it shall be preached. It shall be spread. It shall be spread and taught all over the world. For this is the saving knowledge which the humanity or the human race has been awaiting all through. What is the good news? The good news which has come from God. I am that. That am I. That is the good news. And it shall be preached from all the tabletops from all parts of the world, for a witness unto all nations. And then shall the end come. After that only, when people hold on to this awareness that I am that indeed, and then for a witness unto all nations. So as you keep on holding on to this, that means you are witnessing the presence of God. So when you are witnessing that which is the inward witness, which is always present within you, God is the inward witness, which is always observing all what you do and all what you are. For a witness unto all nations. So in all parts of the world, in all nations, everywhere indeed, in the hearts of every person, God is there present as a witness, witnessing the panorama and the phenomena of life going around you. And you too also should witness the witnesser. You should witness the witnesser. The witness who is witnessing you, you in turn should witness it. Why should you witness? Because thus far you have forgotten His presence. So therefore the only way that you can regain your divine status is to observe Him. So when you observe Him, you are witnessing Him. So you are witnessing the witness who is present there within you. And then when that happens, then shall the end come. Then on the end of the whole universe shall come. And where will it come? Come within you. For each person it will come within himself in his own mind structure, mental frame and mind structure. That's where the end of the world will take place. Not outside, it's here. Within yourself it will come, it will transpire. So therefore, world's end or life's end, that is the world's end or your human life's end. That's where the world's end transpires, within yourself. So whence you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Stand in the holy place. So he tells you, when you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation. So the prophet Daniel had spoken about the imminent desolation which would transpire in the physical world all around during the course of human history. Then at that time, he says, stand in the holy place. Every one of you should abide in the holy place. That holy place, the holy place is the place of rest. The holy rest, the Sabbath day, the holy Sabbath. So the holy Sabbath, the place of rest. So that is where stand in the holy way. Abide, stand in the holy way means holy place. Abide, be there firmly established. Be firmly established in your rest, in the holy rest, which is said to be the holy Sabbath, which is to be observed in the inner temple of every person. be established therein. Then let them which be in Judea flee to the mountains. Then the others who are in Judea flee to the mountains, because there could be floods, earthquakes, etc. And wars and everything. So let them which be in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, because these things will happen so quickly and so fast. When an earthquake is taking place, you can't go into your bedroom and pick up articles. Run away as quickly as possible. Flee. So let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. So if you are in the fields, run from the fields. Don't get back to your home in order to retrieve some of the clothes. Go on, whether you are clad or unclad or semi-clad, matters little. Flee. And woe unto them that are with child. Oh, woe unto them those who are with child, who are about to give birth to children, for they will be in difficulties too, because they cannot run. And to them that gave sucked in those days, and who have got little children, even to them also it will be very difficult to carry and lead away their little babies out of the place to a place of safety. So there will be difficulties and problems all over. And pray you that your flight be not in the winter, but pray to God that this flight of yours may not take place in the winter, because it is extremely cold. And when you flee in the winter time, you need shelter, because the cold can be very intense. And I am told the winters in the olden days was much more stronger than the winter today. Even in Europe too, about 60 years ago, snow stayed on the ground at least 4 months. Currently that snow is very little indeed. And what to speak of 2000 years ago, when snow was rampant and strongly entrenched on the soil on the fields and on the soil of the people. So prayers. So he says, pray you that your flight may not be in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day, because on the Sabbath day you have to rest. So therefore, let it not be on the Sabbath day. For then shall be great tribulation. At that time there shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no ever shall be. So there will be such tribulation of lightning and earthquakes and thunder, floods and all these. So when they take place simultaneously, the tribulation can be very intense indeed. When any one of these things will happen, that itself is sufficient. But when all of them happen simultaneously, that is something to be experienced. Then, except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But unless that period, that time of hardship, unless it be shortened, if it was a short life for a short period of a few days, few weeks, unless it is for a short duration, it will be very difficult for people to survive. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. But for the elect's sake means, because elect's sake, because of the presence of the noble souls still living in different parts of the regions at that time, because of their presence, benign presence, God will have some mercy upon the place, and those days will be shortened. This is what the glory of holy men around does. They are very present in different parts. These are the elect. For their sake, God preserves to some extent that the rest of humanity could also survive. Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. So at this time, If anybody comes and tells you, oh, here is the Christ, there is the Christ, believe it not. Do not believe all such things. For there shall arise false Christ and false prophets. They shall arise. So wherever man is, there are certain other men who will always take advantage of the situation. So they will claim. There are many claimants to the throne of a kingdom. Many claimants. Even in the kingdom of a nation, there are many claimants. It's always the case for every kingdom. They all vie with each other. So here also for the God's kingdom. For there shall be false prophets, false Christ and false prophets. And they shall show great signs, and they shall show their magical powers and wonders, in so much that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect itself. They will perform these things, these false prophets and false Christ, even in order to deceive the elect, the spiritually elect, those who are well versed, well disciplined in the faith of God, were living in the way of God. Even to those people they may try to show. They shall try to deceive those very people itself. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth, because he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, people come and tell you, oh, behold, the so-called Christ or the prophet, Messiah is in the desert, go not forth, don't go there. Because they say, go not forth. Behold, if they say he is in the street, he is in the secret chambers, believe, behold, he is somewhere secretively, somewhere. Don't believe that. Believe it not. In some secret place, hidden cave, he is there indeed and available for a select few. Don't believe it and don't get caught and run there. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will be the eagles. There will the eagles be gathered too. That is to say, wherever there is carcass food, the eagles will always be there to take it. So here also, wherever humans are, there will be eagles waiting to pounce upon them, to make them their disciples and their followers, to live upon them. You'll always find these people indeed. Then 29, chapter 24, 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from the heaven, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken. So immediately after the tribulation of those days, immediately after, as it is happening, those days shall the sun be darkened. That means the sunlight will not appear on earth. And the moon shall not give her light, and the moon will not shed her moonbeam. It will not fall upon the planet earth, for they will be covered. They will be covered. And the stars shall fall from the heaven, and the stars too will not be twinkling in the sky anymore. And the powers of the earth shall be shaken, and earthquakes will periodically happen. There will be aftershocks. There will be one earthquake and there will be aftershocks. Now and then at different places.
What's it talking about? What's it talking about? What is it talking about?
About?
No, this is going to happen.
Yes, one is going to happen soon after. These things do happen from time to time after the passing away of Jesus.
So you're talking about
after the demise of Jesus. After the demise of Jesus, the passing away of Jesus, some of these things will happen, will happen. And even during the demise of Jesus too, some things did happen. There was an earthquake, and also afterwards at different periods of human history, after the death of Christ, these things do happen and did happen at different parts of the world.
They happen because of They happen because of his death.
No, they happen because of the wickedness of men. The wickedness. So men were, all through human history, were living with their iniquity, with their evil wickedness. So because of that, they were inducing these natural calamities to fall upon them at different times of human history. So this is what Jesus is referring to as to what would take place afterwards, after his passing away. Because after his passing away, so many would also come and claim that they are the Christ come again, the Christ reborn. So many will come and claim that they are the Christ and they are the prophets. Believe them not. And trials and tribulations and earthquakes and pestilence and famine, all of these will take place. So this is what. At different parts of the world at different times. It is not necessarily only in the Middle East, but it could so take place in far corners of the world. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet. Now this is a section which is found also in the Revelations. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet. So this is metaphorically stated. Not that there is a trumpet. It's metaphorically stated. That is to say, at the time of the world's end, for those who are entitled to the world's end to transpire within themselves. So this is metaphorically stated, this section. Of where he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Four winds from one end to the other. All the elect, all the good people, the pious souls, they will be brought together, which means that they will be the God's angels, or so to say, would see to it that these people are, shall we say, taken or led unto enlightenment. Led unto enlightenment. Or that is to say, to salvation. These elect will be led unto salvation. So that is metaphorically stated in this section in this manner. So, with a trumpet means they will be heralded. They will be heralded with a trumpet. Because if anything good is going to happen, right, then you herald with a trumpet to announce it. So, such a situation may transpire or will transpire in due course afterwards. Then he says in 32, now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, you know that summer is nigh. So in a fig tree wherein it is tender, and when his branch is tender, the new branches have come and putteth forth new leaves, you know that, the summer is about to come. The spring has passed away. So likewise to you, when you shall see all these signs, know that it is near, even at the doors. So when these signs are there, may you understand that these are the signs which may indicate to you that know that it is near, even at the doors. It's near, the end is near. The end for each person is near. For each person. So, because when each person is to attain enlightenment or salvation, there are two synonymous words, then just prior to that, the collapsing of the universe should take place. The collapse of the universe would transpire in his own mind itself. The whole universe is collapsing into him, into this person. So that is why he says that is a sign that the end is near. You are at the doorstep. You are at the doorstep of liberation, of salvation. For you have to be, your salvation is from this world. Your salvation is to exit this world. So in order to exit this world, the world's end must transpire. And the world's end will transpire in your own mind. It will collapse. It will collapse. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. Verily I tell you, emphatically, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled, both collectively in certain parts of the world. These trials and tribulations may take place and will take place, and individually too, in many parts of the world, it will also similarly transpire in the minds of people, both ways, physically too outside, and also within individually, within certain people, the elect. He uses the word elect here, the elect, the holy ones. Within them also it will transpire individually. So these are the signs by which you come to understand that the world's end is going to take place within oneself. And outside, of course, there could be some problems, but it once again comes up. The outside world, a city can be decimated, and then once again it will spring up, that city. Then he says, heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. So even if heaven and earth pass away and disappear, but my words which I tell you, they shall not pass away, they shall be true indeed. They will be true words. But of that day and hour, but that's rather intriguing, 36. But of that day and hour knoweth no man ever knoweth, no man ever knows that day on which this will transpire. No one ever knows on which day individually this wonderful phenomenon called the collapsing of the world into himself and his subsequent salvation will transpire. No one ever knows. All that you can do is wait and see. Be prepared. Be prepared for that glorious day when this will transpire within you. So, but of that day, an hour, and which hour? No man will know when it will happen. Nay, not the angels of heaven, not even the angels, the angelic beings who are living in heaven will know. But my Father only, Only my Father. Only my Father will know it. And he, the trumpet which is mentioned a few lines ago, earlier, is the trumpet wherein God will speak the word. God will speak the word. When you hear the word from God, you will become God. So that when you hear the word from God is a trumpet announcing, heralding your imminent salvation. That's what it is. That's what it signifies and means, perhaps. Then he says, only God knows, because it is God who has to come and save you. It's only God. You will have to hear the word of God, word from God, who will make you God. Only God knows when it shall be, at which hour and when it shall be so. To explain this, he is going to give out the parable of the 10 virgins for you to understand this truth. But then he continues and says, people know not which hour something good or something, a calamity could occur. No one knows. No one is coming and telling you at what time calamity will take place and earthquake will take place. No one ever knows that. Or a lightning flash from where it's going to come and strike you. No one knows. So therefore he says it is just like, but as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For Noah, wherein you have that Noah's ark, that story incident of the great deluge. For as in the days that was before the flood, just as in the days just before the flood took place, which came all of a sudden, they were merrymaking, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage. They were all having a jolly good time, the people, eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark. Until the time when Noah himself entered into the ark. The Noah's ark, which he had been told to construct by God himself during that imminent deluge. And Noah, being a righteous person, obeyed the sayings of God and built that ark. And in that ark, he put in 2 of every species onto the boat, and then steered them and had them steered into safety. As the flood was coming, they all entered into it. The great deluge, as it was about to take place. But at that time, all the others were drinking and merrymaking, and knew not until the flood came. And when the flood came, it swept the rest of them away. Took them all, and the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. So also in a similar way, the future coming of man will transpire all of a sudden. You never know when he cometh, when he will come. Just as much as the floods came all of a sudden, and so also the coming of man will be also very sudden indeed. Then at that time, then shall 2 be in the field, and 1 shall be taken, and the other left. Then if there are 2 in the field, 1 who was aware will be taken, 1 who was God aware will be taken, and the other not. 2 women shall be grinding at the mill, the 1 shall be taken and the other left. The one with the awareness of the presence of God will be taken and the other left. So therefore, in order to clear this, he is giving you the next 2 parables to make this idea more clear to you with the 2 parables. Then he says in the first parable, Huh? Watch, therefore, for you know not at what hour your Lord doth come. At what hour? This is said to be the second coming of Christ. Second coming of Christ, which many a person expects in the world, will transpire to that individual who is ready. Who is ready. And that is being explained in the next two parables. Watch, therefore, for you know not what hour your Lord doth come. So you have got to keep a watch. You've got to always keep a watch. Keep a watch means always be on the lookout, be aware. Be aware of the presence of God. That is how you maintain your watch. Be aware of the presence of God. For you know not at what hour he would come and lead you to salvation or enlightenment. And then he is giving two examples for this. First example is, know this, that if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched. So know this, that if the good man, the owner of the house, who is in possession of his goods in the house, if he had known in what watch, at which time the thief would come, he would have kept watch. But he does not know, and would not have, and since he did not keep watch, because he knows not when the thief is coming, so since he has not kept the watch, and would not have suffered his house to be broken up, so the thief, unknowing to him, would have entered the house and broken it up and taken away the goods. But on the other hand, if he had kept watch, then his house wouldn't have been broken. So therefore, the first example, he is referring to the person who was careless to keep watch. Then in the second example, therefore be you also ready, for in such an hour as you think not the Son of Man cometh. So therefore he says, now this therefore means he's still explaining that first example. That being the case, therefore, you also be ready for such a time, for such an hour. As you think not the Son of Man cometh. So therefore, you think that you don't know when the Son of Man will come to you, or the Christ consciousness will come to you. Son of Man means the second coming of Christ, which means the Christ consciousness. The Christ consciousness, at which hour, at which time it will come to you, no one knows. Therefore, you have got to be constantly alert. And the way to be constantly alert is to be constantly watchful and aware at all times. At all times. So you have to maintain this awareness at all times for this to transpire. So this is the first example, wherein you have got to be constantly watchful. Constantly watchful. Not be negligent, but be constantly aware. Then the second example is, who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household, to give them meat in due season. So in the second example, he is saying, who is that faithful and wise servant who has been entrusted with a duty to maintain his house, his household? The owner of the house had ordered the servant to maintain the house, those living in the house, duly feed them and keep them in their order. Give them meat in due season, that is, feed them properly. So he says, blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. So blessed is that servant. So you never know when the Lord of the house will turn up, and when he turns up, if he finds his servant taking care of his household and not neglecting it, and duly feeding and taking care of all those who are around, so blessed is that servant indeed. For when he cometh shall find so doing, when he finds him so taking care of his duties. So verily I say unto you, then he shall make him ruler over all his goods. Then the owner of the house he shall make him ruler over all his goods. He will confer upon him a special privilege to be in possession of all his goods. But and if that evil servant shall say in his heart, but on the other hand, if that servant were to say, evil servant shall say in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming. Oh, my Lord, he says he'll come. We don't know when he'll come. He may take his own time in coming. So we also can relax. We also can relax and take it easy. And then he shall begin to smite his, and he begins to smite his fellow stamens, and to eat and drink with a drunkard, and he does merrymaking. He does merrymaking. Then at that time the Lord of that servant shall come in a day. So the Lord of the servant shall come in. When he looketh not for him, when he doesn't expect him, and in an hour that he is not aware of, and at a time that he is not aware of. He may come at any time all of a sudden, which the servant may not expect. And then when he finds a servant not tending to his business of keeping the house in good order, shall cut him asunder, and he will remove him and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites, and will put away with the hypocrites. Put this man away with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth, and thereafter there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. That is to say, if the servant were to be merrymaking and indulging in that, then the Lord of the house, who is the Lord of the universe, when he sees that happening, he will take this fellow, this servant of his, and then put him into the rightful place where he belongs, where weeping and gnashing takes place, for not doing his duty, his function. So in this manner, he is now indicating that for the second coming of Christ, one must always be vigilant and be ready, for one never knoweth when that will transpire in one's own individual mind. So therefore one has to be constantly vigilant, be watchful and be ready. And in order to indicate this, these two examples were given. For the coming of Christ consciousness within man. So for it to take place, man should be ever ready. You never know not at which hour it will come on to you. So therefore you should always be ever ready. Never be slothful, never be sleepy, never be merry-making. So thus in this manner, a man must prepare himself for the coming of Christ consciousness within him. You may call it coming of the second Christ. It's not the coming of the second Christ, it's the coming of the Christ consciousness. For the dawn of the Christ consciousness is not the coming of the second Christ. This is a universal phenomena meant for the entire race who are awaiting for salvation. And the beginning of salvation shall begin with the dawn of Christ consciousness within each and every spiritual aspirant who so aspires with all earnest to attain liberation or salvation which is said to be nothing but the state of enlightenment. So, the one who aspires constantly has to aspire for it without being lazy over it, or indolent, and without merrymaking. So in this manner, you never know when it will come to you. All of a sudden, unexpected, it can take place. Just as the floods come unexpectedly. That is why the other example was given. A flood doesn't announce, I am coming. Right? It comes. It comes. You never know it. All of a sudden it comes. So it is in this manner that Jesus is giving some wonderful teachings. But in camouflage language. So his meaning and the sense and his meaning has to be deciphered. Om Tat Sat.